The firing squad had already been assembled when they brought her to my cell. I didn't look up at first. After 3 weeks of interrogations, beatings, and the mockery they called a trial, I had learned to conserve what little energy remained. The execution order had been signed that morning. 8 hours from now, I would face 12 Korvani rifles in the prison courtyard, and Sergeant Major Marcus Webb, decorated veteran of the Rim campaigns, sole survivor of the Helios Station massacre, would cease to exist. The cell door hissed open. I expected another guard, perhaps a chaplain they'd dragged in for appearances. Instead, I heard the soft clicking of claws against metal flooring. "They said you would not speak," a voice said. Female, I thought, though with the Vel'kari it was sometimes difficult to tell. "They said you have been silent for days." I raised my head. She was small, barely reaching my chest if I'd been standing. Her scaled skin caught the dim light, shifting between deep violet and midnight blue as she moved. 2 large eyes, amber with vertical pupils, studied me with an intensity that seemed almost clinical. A thin membrane flickered across them once, twice. "I am Seyith," she said, "third daughter of the Vel'kari diplomatic corps." I said nothing. She tilted her head, the motion bird-like and strange. "You truly do not speak." Nothing left to say. My voice came out rougher than I expected. How long since I'd used it? "Trial's over. Sentence is set. You're wasting your time." "Perhaps." She moved closer, her movements fluid despite the awkwardness of her digitigrade legs. "The Korvani believe you destroyed their supply depot on Helios the 430. Killed 47 of their soldiers." "I did. They say it was a war crime. That you used chemical agents prohibited by the Galactic Conventions." "I used what was available." I met her gaze. "Their depot was storing biological weapons. I destroyed it before they could deploy them against the colony. The chemicals were theirs, not mine." "You have proof of this?" I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound, proof burned with the depot, along with any chance I had of walking out of here. Seyith settled onto the floor, folding her legs beneath her in a manner that seemed uncomfortable for her anatomy. She didn't seem to mind. "The Vel'kari have been assigned to monitor this execution, to ensure it proceeds according to interstellar law.io. Observers." I leaned back against the cold wall, here to make sure the Korvani don't torture me first. Very reassuring. I am not an observer. Her tail curled around her feet, the tip twitching slightly. "I'm a companion." "A what?" "Among my people, when one faces execution, they are not left alone. A companion stays with them through their final hours. It is tradition, sacred duty." I stared at her. "You're here to hold my hand while I wait to die." "In essence, yes. I don't need a babysitter. I am not here for your needs, Sergeant Major Webb." Something shifted in her voice, a firmness I hadn't expected. "I am here because no sentient being should face the void alone. Whether you want my presence or not is irrelevant. I will stay." We sat in silence for a long moment. The distant sounds of the prison filtered through, boots on metal, muffled voices, the hum of energy barriers. "You're going to be here all night," I said finally. "Yes. And there's nothing I can do to make you leave." "No." I closed my eyes. "Then at least sit somewhere you won't cramp up. The bench isn't comfortable, but it's better than the floor." When I opened my eyes again, she had moved to the far end of the narrow bench, leaving as much space between us as the cell allowed. Her amber gaze remained fixed on me, unblinking. "You are not what I expected," she said quietly. "Neither are you." The first hour passed in silence. I had grown accustomed to silence in my years of service. The quiet before an assault, the stillness after a firefight, the heavy emptiness of a ship between stars. But this was different. She was there, a presence I couldn't ignore, watching me with those unsettling amber eyes. "You keep staring," I said eventually. "I'm trying to understand you. Not much to understand. Soldier. 15 years in the coalition forces. Did my job. Ended up here. That is what you did." Her tail flicked. "Not who you are. At this point there's not much difference." She made a sound, somewhere between a hum and a click, that I couldn't interpret. "Among my people, the condemned are encouraged to speak of their lives, to share what they wish to be remembered. I don't have anyone left to remember me. You have me." I turned to look at her fully for the first time. In the dim light of the cell, her scales seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence. There was something almost hypnotic about it. "Why do you care?" I asked. "I'm a human. Your people have been neutral in this war. What does it matter to you if I die here? Does compassion require justification? In my experience, everything requires justification." Seyith was quiet for a moment. Then she shifted, drawing her knees up in a gesture that seemed almost childlike, despite her alien physiology. Among the Vel'kari, companionship is and sacred. The bond between souls, the sharing of final moments. These things transcend species, politics, war. When I volunteered for this assignment, my elders warned me that humans might not understand. That you might reject the gift I offer. And what gift is that? Memory. Her voice softened. When you die tomorrow, Sergeant Major Webb, you will not be forgotten. I will carry your story with me. Your victories, your regrets, your hopes, they will live on through me. That is the gift of the companion. I felt something tighten in my chest. It had been a long time since anyone had offered me anything without expecting something in return. That's a heavy burden, I said. Carrying around a dead man's memories. It is an honor. You don't even know me. Then, tell me. The words came before I could stop them. I told her about Helios Station. About the 18 hours I'd spent in a collapsed corridor, listening to my squad die one by one over the comm while rescue teams fought to reach us. I told her about the colony on Helios IV. About the children I'd seen playing in the streets just days before I learned what the Korvani were planning. I told her about the choice I'd made, knowing it would likely cost me everything. Seyith listened without interruption. Her eyes never left my face. You saved them, she said when I finished. The colonists, for now. The Korvani will try again. They always do. But because of what you did, those children will wake up tomorrow. They will play in those streets again. They will grow up, fall in love, have children of their own. She leaned forward slightly. Is that not worth something? I had no answer for that. The hours slipped by. We talked. About her world. About mine. About the strange twists of fate that had brought us together in this cell. She told me about the Vel'kari concept of soul threads, the invisible connections between beings that, once formed, could never be truly severed. Even in death? I asked. Especially in death. Her tail curled around her feet again. The body is temporary. The connections we form, they are eternal. I found myself believing her. It was around the 4th hour when the alarms started. The prison shuddered. Somewhere in the distance, an explosion rattled the walls. Emergency lighting flickered on, bathing the cell in harsh red. What's happening? Seyith rose to her feet, her scales flashing with agitated colors. I was already at the cell door, peering through the narrow window. Guards ran past, shouting in Korvani. Another explosion, closer this time. Attack, I said. Someone's hitting the prison. Who would? The power cut. The energy barrier sealing my cell vanished with a crackle of dying electricity. For a moment we stood in complete darkness. Seyith? I am here. Her hand, small-scaled, surprisingly warm, found mine in the darkness. I am here. Emergency power kicked in. The barrier didn't return. I moved on instinct. 15 years of training took over, pushing aside the exhaustion and the resignation I'd worn like a second skin. I pulled Seyith behind me as I eased into the corridor. Stay close, I whispered. Don't make a sound. Marcus, I know I'm supposed to die in a few hours. But if someone's giving me a chance to go out on my feet instead of against a wall, I'm taking it. I looked back at her. You can stay if you want. Your diplomatic immunity will protect you. Her grip on my hand tightened. I told you. I will not leave you to face the void alone. We moved through the chaos of the prison. Whatever force had struck the facility, they had hit hard and fast. Korvani guards lay scattered in the corridors, some dead, others unconscious. I collected a rifle from one, checked the charge, and kept moving. You know how to use that? Seyith asked. Better than most. We reached a junction when we ran into them. 3 Korvani soldiers, just as surprised to see us as we were to see them. Time slowed. My finger found the trigger. But before I could fire, Seyith stepped forward. Her scales began to glow, not the subtle shimmer I'd seen before, but a brilliant, blinding pulse of light that filled the corridor. The Korvani screamed, clutching at their eyes. I didn't hesitate. 3 shots. 3 bodies. When the light faded, Seyith was trembling. I caught her before she could fall. What was that? Defense mechanism, she managed. Rarely used. It takes much from us. Can you walk? I do not know. I didn't think. I lifted her, cradling her small form against my chest. She weighed almost nothing. Hold on to me. Marcus, you should leave me. Save yourself. I spent 3 weeks in that cell accepting death. I started moving again, rifle awkward in one hand, Seyith secure in the other. You spent one night reminding me what it means to live. I'm not leaving you behind. We made it to the outer wall before they caught up to us. The Korvani commander found us in the loading bay, cornered against the blast doors. 6 soldiers with rifles aimed at my chest. The attack had been suppressed. Whoever had hit the prison had failed or retreated. It didn't matter. We were out of time. The human prisoner, the commander said, his translator rendering his words in flat, emotionless tones. And the Vel'kari observer. How unexpected. I set Seyith down gently, keeping myself between her and the rifles. She's a diplomatic envoy, protected by interstellar law. Whatever happens to me, she walks out of here. Of course. The commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. We have no quarrel with the Vel'kari. But you, Sergeant Major, you have caused us a great deal of trouble tonight. Added to my list of crimes. Marcus. Seyith's voice was weak, but I felt her hand on my back. Marcus, please, stay behind me. I will not let you die for me. You get a choice. Neither do you. Before I could stop her, Seyith moved. She stepped around me, placing herself directly between me and the Korvani rifles. Her scales began to glow again, but dimmer this time, weaker. Whatever she'd done in that corridor had taken too much from her. I invoke the Vel'kari Sanctuary Protocol, she said, her voice carrying an authority I hadn't heard before. This human is under my protection. To harm him is to harm me. To harm me is to violate the sacred compact between our peoples. The commander hesitated. You would claim a condemned war criminal as your ward. I claim him as my companion. The word hung in the air. Even through their alien expressions, I could see the Korvani's surprise. Companion. The commander's translator struggled with the word. You would bond yourself to this creature. The bond is already formed. Seyith's voice was steady now, certain. Whether I intended it or not, whether he knew it or not. He carries part of my soul now, as I carry part of his. If you kill him, you kill something in me. And the Vel'kari do not forgive attacks on our souls. Silence. I stood frozen, trying to process what she'd said. Bond. You. Soul. Part of her in me. Part of me in her. When had that happened? During those long hours of talking? When she'd taken my hand in the darkness? When I'd carried her through the corridors? Or had it been there from the beginning, from the moment she'd walked into my cell and refused to leave? The commander lowered his weapon. One by one, the soldiers followed. The Vel'kari diplomatic corps will hear of this, he said. They will. Seyith's glow faded, and she swayed on her feet. I caught her, holding her upright. And they will support my claim. Of that, I am certain. The Korvani withdrew. I didn't understand the politics. Didn't understand the weight of what Seyith had invoked. All I knew was that we were still alive, and the dawn that had been meant for my execution was bleeding golden light through the loading bay windows. You should have told me, I said quietly. About the bond. About what you were risking. Would it have changed anything? I thought about it. About the way she'd listened to my stories without judgment. About the hand that had found mine in the darkness. About the light she'd given to blind our enemies. The body I'd carried through hostile corridors. The soul she'd placed between me and death. No, I admitted. I don't think it would. Then there was nothing to tell. She looked up at me, amber eyes reflecting the dawn. Among my people, companion bonds are rare. They cannot be forced or chosen. They simply happen. When two souls recognize each other across the void. And that's what this is. Recognition? That is what this is. She pressed her hand against my chest, just over my heart. You are part of me now, Marcus Webb. As I'm part of you. The Korvani can execute your body if they choose. But they cannot touch what we have become. I covered her hand with mine. They were supposed to kill me at dawn. Yes. Instead, I'm standing here with you, watching the sunrise. Yes, Seyith. I waited until her eyes met mine. Thank you. For what? For making sure I'd never forget. For carrying my story. For... I struggle to find the words. For showing me that even at the end, connection is possible. That we don't have to face the void alone. Her scales shimmered with colors I'd never seen before. Warm golds and soft pinks that seemed to radiate something like joy. You carried me when I could not walk. You stood between me and death. The gift is not mine alone, Marcus. We gave it to each other. In the loading bay of a Korvani prison, with the bodies of enemies behind us, and an uncertain future ahead, I did something I hadn't done in years. I smiled. The dawn they'd meant for my execution became something else, a beginning rather than an end. Seyith leaned against me, exhausted but alive, and I held her close. Whatever came next, we would face it together. That was the nature of the bond. That was the gift of the companion. Not ownership. Not dependence. But two souls, recognizing each other across the impossible distances of species and culture and war, choosing to carry each other forward into whatever light remained. They had planned to execute me at dawn. Instead, dawn found me reborn. And I would never, never forget the one who had made that possible.